That's the best.
Just in case. Just in case,
This
because
has happened a lot in African
it
events
would be
where
funny.
you invite someone for your wedding, he'll do everything. Then he records the whole thing without memory.
Might sound funny, but these things are happening. And how are we looking?
Have you checked that our faces are okay?
We don't have a costume department.
Mm-hmm.
So they cannot
That's
powder
what
our face.
that's what I'm asking if he has checked.
Okay.
Relax. At no point should you stand straight.
Stuff to like.
Started recording.
Oh, okay.
This thing is still.
I mean, it's one of these
Can
things.
it be seen that? I think it can be
No,
seen
I
that
think it
something
can.
is inside there.
Yeah, it's better. It's
Yeah.
good.
All right.
Just
Well,
drag the shirt down.
I'll try it.
Yeah.
It's pulling back
Okay.
up because of that.
That was
Good. Okay.
All right.
That's one of the things that I realized listening to a podcast that I enjoy listening to is if you try to make the whole thing so
Perfect.
robotic and perfect,
Mhm.
you lose some juice.
Yeah, it doesn't make
you would
sense because
definitely have-
people just feel like it's something you prepared.
Yeah. Which is a good segue because I was explaining to the lady earlier, the essence of this podcast is to create a space for genuine and raw types of conversation around migration that does quite a number of things, at least in the way I intended. Part of it is to counter the narrative that is out there regarding immigrants, as all kinds of devilish things anyone can imagine. But it's also to create like a compendium of narratives around the experiences of people who are termed immigrant, because there's a lot of scholarship around whether or not that's even an appropriate term, because the origin of that term comes from the animal world. It's a term used to refer to the movement of animals from one part of the wilderness to another across different seasons. So using that same term for human beings has some kind of degrading element to it. So, but that's it. It's a whole conversation on it. So the idea for the podcast, and it's called the Immigrant Dad Podcast Project. I had the project because I'm not trying to go commercial. It's still something for the general public, but it also has some undertone of academic rigor to it, and that's why I'm piecing it together with what will be my dissertation and potentially an academic book and all that stuff. So we welcome you. Thank you so much for joining and agreeing to be on the podcast with me. I know you're a very, very busy man, and it would mean a lot. Or it means a lot rather that you've taken time out of your busy schedule, especially in the summer when you have research and stuff to do.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate that a lot.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure for me, of course, to be with you on this topic because it's something that I really care about. You know that, and a student cannot have a project like this and require my assistance, and I say no. It would just be too selfish.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. I appreciate that. I was also going to mention that one of the intention again behind this is to make it so open to public, such that it's not those people in the academics. For instance, other guests I plan to have would not be academics. You're an academic. They won't be. It's just to kind of open that,
various life
door to
experiences.
have, yes, because it's not a singular experience of migration and fatherhood and all that stuff. And so we will get straight into it. I think one of the very important thing in this is because we're trying to carve a narrative, we're not just going to jump into the whole thing altogether. We need to, learn about each other. Who are you? What were you? What are you? What do you hope to be if you're still not that already? And all of that stuff. So that kind of brings me to my first point of inquiry. Like, you know, tell us about yourself. What is it that someone, if someone were to ask you, who are you? What do you typically tell them?
Well. That's a very serious question, and often I tell my friends that I'm a son of farmer. That's that's the best way to describe myself because I was born in a large family of a farmer who never worked for the government, and with about 22 siblings,
Whoa.
brothers and sisters, and two mothers, and you often I say two and a half mothers because despite having two wives, my father assisted his friend's wife when he passed away,
Wow.
and had a few children with her that he recognized that we knew were our brothers and sisters, and we grew up together. We did everything together. He was taking care of them, sending them to school, and doing everything. And so that's my origin. That's the thing that I'm the most proud of because every time I'm in a difficult situation, I think of my father, and I say that's a man that barely had about $50 a month
Mm.
and raised 24 children,
Whoa.
some of which are today professors, engineers, military personnel, and all the things that they are doing. For myself, I traveled out of Africa in 1998, so I'm like a grandfather of immigrants already, because because when
98.
yeah
That's like 28 years ago.
yeah when I traveled out of Africa, some of our graduate students were not yet born. So they were not in project.
I know it's 28
So
because my immediate younger brother was born 98 and
you
he's
see,
28. Yeah.
yeah. So that's the day I mean the year I traveled out of Africa, went to Russia as a scholarship student because obviously my parents couldn't afford sending me abroad. So I got a scholarship to go to Russia, and it was like a miracle to my village because we're like, oh wow, that's one of ours that the government is sending out. It would be like our light. We counting on this guy, and so and I thought myself, hey, this is for 7 years. Though the scholarship was for 4 years for a bachelor's degree. I told everybody it was 7 years. I said, wait, 7 years. I say, I get a bachelor's degree, get a master's degree, and I make sure I get my PhD
For good
before
measure.
to it. Yeah, before coming back. Because if I'm coming back, I should not come back to be struggling to get a job.
Right.
By having a PhD, at least you are certain that when you come back, you can become a teacher directly without having to do anything. So that was the thing. And then, you know, we get to Russia and then we realize that, yeah, there is a lot, you know, happening in the world. And then I just told myself, yeah, I need to get that PhD and return to Cameroon because I'm from Cameroon and return to Cameroon with the friends because we were talking about making the country better,
Right.
making Africa better. We had an association of African students where we're having conferences about how to deal with our progress in Africa. So with people from all countries, all African countries, we had dreams, you know. Then the years passed, and I ended up spending 10 years
Instead of 7.
instead of 7 because it turned out that the master's, the bachelor's degree for them, they call it baccalaureate, was 4 years. And then you take another 2 years to have a master's before you enroll for the PhD program,
So
which
they
is
don't have
3 years.
pipeline like the US has.
Yeah, and then you had to spend first 1 year to study only the Russian language.
Right,
So that whole thing ended up being longer than I expected.
Right.
So it was supposed to be 10 years, you know. I
Wow.
was like, wow, man. That's how I
Well,
ended up.
that's quite a trajectory. It's like from a family that can field a
Yeah.
football pitch and two substitution
Yep.
to going to Russia intending to spend four, thinking knowing you're going to spend seven, and then
You ended up
spending
having
spending 10.
10
Um,
years.
I mean that kind of paints a picture already, you know.
Yeah.
But if say you're asked, what is it? What is one thing or two, if you may, that you would want people or the audience to know about you? You've told us part of your journey, but what is it about you starting with your name,
My
but
name
yeah,
is Martial Longa. I am professor of mathematics
okay,
at the University of Mississippi, and currently advisor of the Association of African and Caribbean Students, which is the body that unites the students from Africa and the Caribbean. So for the University of Mississippi, that should be what is enough to know as
yeah. And
who
I would
Dr.
I would
Longa
tell you, I
is.
don't know if you know, but
Yeah.
your reputation precedes you, in many corners. I I came I came to the program in 2022, and I think you were the advisor then as well. And the people that I made initial contact with, Itunu, Muna. You remember Itunu, right?
Yes,
She's not
yes, he
here
was
anymore. Yeah,
from Nigeria and
yeah,
she was
yeah,
former president.
yeah. And it was just nice for me to know that the association exists, and there's like a spearhead in there who's invested in the well-being of the other members of the group. You might want to wave at the
Yeah.
light, yeah,
It-
of the
it-
group.
I
So
think there is nobody here.
yeah, it's like the sensor,
Automatic, yeah.
the whole sensor thing. As I was saying rather. So yeah, your reputation precedes you. But then I've often asked myself once or twice, like the name. I know as Africans we have a lot of history and story behind the kinds of names that we choose for our kids and all that stuff. And I know you mentioned your father has been a very central figure, which I think is very parallel to what we're about to talk about here. What was the story behind choosing the name Marshall? What's the story behind the family name Longla? Is there anything in there?
Well, for my father, I think he did uh, the opposite of what I'm doing with my children because I'm more turned towards conserving the African names and getting away from the names that we inherited from from colonialism. My father decided to name all his children, give the first name of all his children according to the calendar. So he would look at the Christian calendar for the name that is written on the day you're born. So I was born on the 30th of June. So he looked at the calendar and the name was Marshall.
Okay, wait,
So
I don't understand it. Do the calendars have
yeah,
suggested names?
yes, the Christian calendars, they come with names. Each of the days comes with name. For
Whose names are
example,
those?
they are names of Christian saints.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, I do know that it was a martyr back in the 13th century or something like that. So they collect those names and they put them on the calendars. And somehow the generation of my father was taught that it was a good thing to name a child according to those calendars. And so my father did for all his children. And as for my last name, it's not my father's name. It's the name of my aunt's husband, and the name came to me because usually in my village we give names depending on the importance of the relatives of the two parents.
Oh wow.
So the firstborn, for instance, by if you respect your wife and her family, you would give that name to her family. It could be her mother or her father. If it's a boy, it's definitely her father.
Right.
And then as other children come along, you keep with respect sharing the names within the two families. But when it was time for me, my father had already given so many names because I'm number 11.
You're in the middle.
I'm the 11th born of my family. So before me, they had already given names so that they were given already names to children according to the situation that was in the family.
So they've
So
exhausted the names of
yeah,
the
not that they
relatives.
exhausted, just that there were some frictions in the family.
Yeah.
And when that happens, women decide how to name the child. So they
Okay.
decide that, okay, because of this thing that I'm going through, I'll name my child this. And the husband often goes along with
Agrees.
that. So one of my brother's name, for instance, is Seji, which means God knows. Because at the time he was born, there were some allegations in the family, and the mother decided, okay,
God
I
knows.
have nothing to do with this. God knows the truth. And so she named the child God knows. And the other name is Nombose, which means God has it all. And it's also about the same kind of story. So when my turn came, my aunt got pissed off and she told my father, uh, I gave you a wife. And you have named people so much that you don't know what to do with names. And then you are naming the Seji, the Nombose, but you never named me.
Right.
So uh, my father decided with my mother that the name was going to be her name. They expected a girl,
Uh,
and a boy showed up. Right. So when the boy showed up, she said, okay, so that's God's decision. It will be my husband. And so they named me after her husband, and nobody ever used that name in my family. Nobody calls me Longla in my family because, by respect for her husband, you wouldn't dare call it. Okay. So the people would call me Marshall, or if they want to use that name, they would put a respect to it by first saying the. Right, that's the sign of respect in our language before putting that name, because you know you are
wow.
referring not to me but to the
The
person that I
person.
was
Yeah.
named after.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that's quite a story
So you
because
see,
it's quite a story because
yeah.
um, I remember having a conversation with a friend here, and we were just a little surprised at the, for lack of a better word, the whimsicalness around the naming culture that we see in certain places. For instance, kids who are named objects. There's even a joke. I don't know to what extent it's true. I mean, I definitely know it's not true, so I'm not even going to repeat it. But people being named, random stuff like rice, for instance, and many of these things I found or I've seen around like the English or I would say the English American naming cultures where you can't quite understand why
Why the
a
people are having
child
those
is
names?
named, for instance, Lily. And I understand, perhaps there's an affinity for the flower and the metaphorical essence of the flower, but from an African perspective, we we belabel naming. We to the point of where you said we look at several
Key
circumstances around it
circumstances, yeah.
to choose the name, that is given. I remember asking my dad one time, what is the story behind
Your name.
my name, Ibrahim, for instance, for instance, and the poor man, I don't know if because we didn't grow up with a dad who was super chatty. I mean, he had to make ends meet, and he wasn't really in the house, but he did his very very best to make sure that even though he's not there, he's there. If you get what I mean. But I remember one thing that he shared with me one time that I held on dearly to was, if you look at the origin of the name, it comes from the prophet Abraham, right? And the origin of the name in the Amharic language that he, as him, spoke at the time has to do with being grateful for the various kinds of mercies and grace and blessings and all that stuff that he's been given to. And I kind of held on to it because it made sense to me. I like to think I'm very appreciative and grateful. So I assume, okay, maybe that makes sense. It passed down.
You do
But then,
know that in Africa, most of the time they say, be careful, be mindful the name you give to your child because
yeah,
the child might tend to behave like that name
yeah,
you're giving it. So
yeah.
I believe
That's
so.
that's true because
Yeah.
in that respect as well, I know that when my mom prays for us, because Nigerian mother, my mom prays for us. She uses our middle names. So my middle name is Adeni, and she would take Adeni loosely means crown has worth, or crown is priceless or worthy or is of importance, right? And she will use the ni aspect of the name, which is, saying wherever she will often say, wherever you find yourself, I pray that you would always be, essential and relevant and beloved and all that stuff. And she would do the same with my siblings as well, using the root word of the names to make prayers and benediction. And similar to what you said, we have several proverbs as well in the Yoruba culture around like naming cultures. You name your child what you hope they become. You
Yeah.
know, and I have a very funny story around naming. Sometime during my undergraduate years, I was walking in the community where my school was, and I saw a boy fighting another boy, and I heard like the sister shout at him like, "Ajakbe, come here," and Ajakbe means it's a Yoruba term for he who fights for long. He who fights for long. I was like, huh.
You gave him the name, okay? So he's living by the standards of his name.
And I found the boy fighting. And I was wondering, like, I mean, of course, I know they would also have their story behind naming him that. Maybe there's an extended family thing. But it was just funny that the boy was fighting when I saw him, and I was like, how many more battles are you going to fight, you little boy? But, goes to the kind of a story that comes into naming cultures and practice. And this kind of, takes me segue. We can take this as a segue into like other aspect of this. So, say I were a visitor from, I don't know, Nigeria and Cameroon are neighboring countries. So, say I leave my Lagos and come over to your village in Cameroon on like a Saturday. What am I typically gonna see in that space as to how the families are relating? What are the norms of the Cameroon that you grew up in back in the day?
Oh, well, you know, eh, I can speak about what was there when I was born, and I have no guarantee that it is the same thing
Right.
that you would find there now, given that the society has changed so much with internet, with TV, and all of those things that have brought so many changes everywhere, including in African villages. The village that I grew up in was like a small household. It's why do I say that? Because it's like everybody knows everybody. So you, we are not from the same parent, but we consider ourselves brothers and sisters because we take care of each other. When you're going to the farm, for instance, you can tell your neighbor, "Look after my kids. I'm living there here." It- when you say my kids, you're talking like 3, 4, 5, 6 years old. We, you would see a family do that. You just knock at the door of your neighbor, say, "Hey, man, I'm not in. My kids are in." They'll say, "Okay, I know. Okay," and he will look after them. And that's how trust people used to trust each other back then. And when a child struggles in the village, then everybody would try to get together to help that child, to help him succeed. You see people that respect each other. One of the examples that I once took with my brothers and sisters is like, okay, let me ask you this question, bro. We grew up on this street, And nobody, no boy from this street married a girl from this street. Why? All the girls of the street went to get married to the people from a different places. And none of us married a girl from our street. Why? Because of the respect you had for the parents. You wouldn't come to them and say you want their girl in marriage because they were all considered to be your sisters. You know? And then when I asked the question, was they were like, "Oh, really?" And then it's it. And one of my elder brothers got pissed off because they, what do you mean? Do you want to encourage our children to
Marry
start
their
sleeping with their
sisters.
brothers or sisters or what? I said, sorry, but I was just thinking, you know. So to the extent that for them it's even taboo to ask the question, right? That, why didn't it happen? Because it shouldn't. Why are you
Right,
not asking
right.
why you didn't ask marry your own sister?
Right.
You know, the question shouldn't even be asked
Yeah.
because of the links that you had with them. You know,
So I'm assuming in that village at that time, the cohesiveness was so tight
very strong.
that you had people who were able to eat together,
Yeah.
play together, create memories together, walk together, but definitely not marry each other.
No. Because you were doing all of that as
Right.
brothers and sisters. The question wouldn't even come in like how. You know,
So, tell me, what are some of the fond memories that you have living in this very close knit society? What are some things that just jumps at you without even thinking?
without thinking, I mean, my memories of the past. I'm a I'm a boy that was so focused on school that I was mainly known as a schoolboy,
Ah,
and most people would come to me only with school
good
issues.
stuff.
Okay, so the only thing that I can tell you of is that I used to play chess.
Oh, okay.
I used to play chess, not with my age mates, but with the elders because my age mates couldn't compete with me, and they, I would I was taking care of my brother's shop and the kind of shops that we have in Africa, not what we have here in America, where you have a bunch of things that you're selling there, and you have one person when they come ask for it, you go inside and look for it for them, not for them to go inside and look for it. So, and we had we had a huge board, the 100, 10 by 10, which is 100 pieces chessboard where big boys used to come and play, and I used to watch them play, and then the youngsters were not allowed to play there. So, and one of the best players of that board once came in, and nobody showed up. While waiting for the others to come and say, "Hey, Marshall, why don't you come and sit with me while I'm waiting for the
They're
guys
like
to come?"
he intends you as an appetizer
Yeah,
before the
so
main dish.
so I sat there and we started playing, and players came, and I was winning somehow, and everybody looked at the bum and was like, "Hey, man, this kid is winning against you. How could that happen? I want to try him." So I sat there just to entertain him for for a while,
while, yeah.
but in the end, they decided each of them wanted to play with him, and I win against a few people, and then I became a player of the board.
Oh,
And so,
you broke the rule then.
so they didn't more consider me as a child that cannot play with them, and they say, "Hey, man," when they come in, say, I want to play with that guy." So that's how I started playing on that board, and then along came a few of my age mates to say, "Hey, man, when people are not around, they'll start playing with me there, and the things continue like that. But apart from that, man, I can only tell you about school groups, study
So,
groups,
so
and
if you were
yeah.
to, transport ourselves back to, the time period where you were growing up, I assume part of your nicknames would be schoolboy, like you mentioned.
Bill, Socrates, you would see Neron. Neron was a personal, it was a character in French literature,
Okay.
a very severe king.
Mm.
And somehow in high school, we name class prefects, the people that direct the class when the teachers are not in, and they take care of discipline and all that. And in my high school, there was a decision that the best student of the class should be the class prefect. Okay, and so when I got to was Form 4, I was not the best student in the class, but I was the best student in math and technology. And the teacher that was responsible for the class was the math teacher.
You had a
So,
math bias.
and for the overall ranking of the class, the students that were ahead of me were repeating the class, which is something that
In the
people don't
subject
know.
or in the entire.
The entire class.
Okay.
In Cameroon, you either repeat the entire class or you go forward.
Oh.
That's the thing. So it's something we
Wow.
don't know here in America. If
Even
you're
in Nigeria, you can. Wait,
really,
wait.
if
wait.
your overall grade
Wait.
for the class,
Oh, yeah, that's true. You
if
do
your
repeat the
overall,
class.
yeah, if your
that's true.
overall grade of the class is not above 10 out of 20, you repeat the class and you repeat all subjects.
Yeah, that's true. That's
And
the same in
so,
Nigeria.
yeah, so those guys were ahead. So the math teacher argued with the school principal that no, those guys are ahead of him because they are repeating the class. They are seeing the material for the second time. So technically, we should name this guy the class prefect, and so they did. And what he didn't know was that I was among the best troublemakers of the class. But the only thing is, I didn't do that in the
In his
math and
class.
technology
Because that's what you
classes.
took
For
seriously.
all of the classes, I was a mess because I just didn't care. And they came and they named me class prefect, and everybody celebrated in the class, like, "Wow, yes, man, that's the best decision." And he was surprised
At the
that
reaction.
the first time you come and name a class prefect and the students are applauding, And the reason is he didn't know
Right.
why they were applauding. And so that's technically something that changed completely my life. And I'm still grateful to that teacher up to now. And every time I travel to Cameroon, I make sure to meet him and sit with him. Immediately after he walked out of the class, my life changed. I told my peers that what just happened should not happen again, because we were ranked the last among the 5 classes of the same level. Our class was last. And so I told them it should not happen again. Starting from now, when the teacher gets out of the class, you take your class book for the next class and you start reading. If you cannot read, sleep and wait for the next teacher to get in.
Fun Martial is gone.
And they're like, "Are you serious? What happened to you, man?" I'm like, "Didn't you hear what the teacher just said? We were last." And say, "Okay." And so one of the guys, this big guy that was repeating the class, got up and he said, "Man, what do you really think you can do to maintain that order you think you can bring into this class?" And I told him, "If you want to test me, just try." And so he said, "Hey, so what are you going to do?" I took his name, went out to the administration and said, "Hey, I've just been named class prefect, and this is the guy that challenges my authority in the class, and I want him punished to set an example for everybody else that would want to try that in the future." They came to the class, called him out, gave him 4 hours to walk in the fields, and everybody sat quiet.
Mm.
And from there on, our class moved on. In the end, finishing that year, we were the best.
Wow.
And
There are different ways
you
to
know,
look at the story. There's so many ways to look at it. But I'm with you.
that's the best I think thing that ever happened to me in high school. That teacher starting right there, and from there on, it was a competition in the class because everybody said, "Okay, we're gonna make sure you're not first in this class anymore." And so we will get you down and we will punish you.
Uh-huh.
I said, okay, make sure you beat me first in class. And from there on, I put myself to work in every single subject that we had. And now I turn out from there to ending and finishing high school, I was top of my class. And the competition continued until we graduated from high school.
You know, you know what I see there. I'm thinking it might have been the doing of your math teacher. You might have just revised psychology. The whole class is like, so you guys are so terrible, yeah? Let me revise psychology and treat you guys of your mess. Because what you're saying is, it's often not the trajectory of the story. You know, when you have a people's person named, we call it class captain in Nigeria. We have when you have a people's person named the class prefect or the class captain.
Captain, yeah.
The assumption is that person is going to harbor all the mess of the class. Like they will be the person who will safeguard the class from the teacher, you know, who will be the eyes and the ears of the class with the teacher. Where you kind of flip the whole script.
I flipped the whole script that day. I mean,
Well, so are there some of those classmates that you've encountered that refer to some of this, especially the one who got punished, by the way?
oh, that guy was very, it was very, let's say, instrumental in the end, and because when we finished that class, he got his degree and he got his certificate as well because we were supposed to have a certificate at the end of that class that if you don't have, then you will move to the next class but still have to take that national exam.
Okay.
And he got it. And he carried me like a hero the day the results came out. It's like he promised
Speak of unintended consequences.
he promised that he was going to beat me when we end the class. But that day when the results came out, he got his certificate and he carried me to run on his shoulders to run across the school. You know, and from that point on, people say him and he's his friend now. So
Wow, what a story. So
Like-
now I'm imagining, you know, that was you in high school, right?
that was my high school.
So
Yeah.
that was you in high school. At what point did it become obvious that you would have to move or that you have to seek higher education elsewhere, in this case being
Elsewhere.
Russia? At what point
Well-
were you beginning to see
I
the possibility materialize?
You know, my elder brother used to encourage me. The one named Isidore, he used to encourage me to work hard because he had some friends in Belgium that he thought by the time I finished high school they could help me. But
How old was this brother compared to you? Like how old was he?
he'd at least 12
Oh,
years older
okay.
than me.
That's a lot.
Yeah, so yeah. I have a lot of brothers and sisters that could actually act as parents. You know, so but by the end of by the time I finished and graduated from high school, his situation had changed and he was not more in contact with those people. But I had there was a ceremony they call it excellence ceremony of excellence in our high school. Back in the days they used to have it. Now we organize it for the people that are there now, and we will take all students of the high school in front of the principal's headquarters, and They would just read names of students
Right.
and give prizes for various things. And then I got the prize as best mathematics students of the school, which at the time meant my overall grade was higher than the grade of those who were starting high school, and I was graduating from high school.
Mm-hmm.
So they called my name for that prize and added to the top student of the class. So uh, that day, some one of the I say elite, right, of the city was at the ceremony, saw that, and he didn't know me. I didn't know him because in fact, I knew nobody because as I told you, I was only focused on my studies. So he accosted me on the street in the night. He called my name in the night. I turned around and saw him and like, I said, no worries. I saw you today in your high school. You received the prize as best student in mathematics of the school, right? I said, yes. He said, what do you think? What do you want to do with your life? I said,
That was what he asked you
yeah, that's the
in the
question.
night.
Yeah. I told him
It's
I'm
quite.
going to register at the university and
Mhm.
I'm going to try the exam to get into Polytechnic Institute, which is the best institute for engineers in Cameroon. And said, is that all he asked? I said, well, I have no other options. I said, okay. He said, come to my office tomorrow. And then he gave me his card. The next day I came to his office and then he gave me an application for a scholarship to Canada. I'm like, it was a Commonwealth scholarship. I'm like, okay. He said, fill this application, have all the recommendation letters, and bring it to me. I'm going to submit it for you, which I did. I get all the people that I could to write letters of recommendations, and I gave him. And as my story says, I wrote the book, but it's not out yet. It was not meant to be.
Mm.
He got the application, and the days he was supposed to go to the Canadian embassy with the application, he lost his grandma, and he went to the funeral instead, and he forgot about the application in his office. By the time he got back to ask me to go with the application, it was late. So I went to the embassy, and they told me it was. I think I got there on a Monday, and they told me that they had made a decision on Friday, and so they can't take my application. They asked me to bring it the following year. So I took that application back home, funny enough, and as time goes, a friend comes to my house and say, "Hey, I heard that you were trying to travel abroad and it didn't work." I said, "Yes." And she's like, "Okay, I just went through the Ministry of Higher Education and they just posted there that it is scholarship for Russia and the deadline is tomorrow."
Oh.
I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah. They posted it, the deadline is tomorrow." I said, "Okay, thank you." And then I rallied all my friends on campus and we had a meeting and we decided who was going to take care of which of the documents that were required for the scholarship. The ones that I already had from my Canadian application, I took them, and what was missing, I sent friends to go get them, and myself in the morning, I drove. I went to the Ministry of Higher Education, and they brought the documents that they found, and I got in and submitted the application. And the lady that received my application was like, "When did you get all these documents?" I say, "Is anything missing?" I just asked, "Is anything missing?" She went through it, checked, looked at my transcripts from the state exam to graduate from high school, and looked back at me and say, "You really want to go to Russia?" I asked her, "Ma'am, is there any other alternative? her head went down, and she put my application in.
There seemed to be something around that question. What was the climate like? Because I know, from history, there's the tussle between the Soviet Union and the West, and did that factor into that question of do you really want to go to Russia?
The
Or?
question that she was asking me was because she was seeing the grades that I was showing her, which could qualify me for better opportunities,
Okay.
which I was not offered. And which is what my answer was referring to when I said, is there any
I
other
understand.
alternative? Because if she knew there were,
But you don't know about it.
okay, but we didn't know about it. The only one that I was informed of was the one I was applying for. So my reply was like to say, hey, if you know there is an alternative, you can give me a better option, go ahead. I'm open to to an alternative. But if there isn't, this is all I have, you know? And openly there, she told me, okay, when all is finished, we will inform you to bring your HIV test results.
Which was a requirement.
It was a requirement.
Interesting. Never had that one.
Yeah, you got to bring the HIV test result to make sure you don't have it before they advance with your application.
And when was this?
That was 1998,
Oh, okay. You said that earlier.
man. So back in '98. So yeah, and that's how I ended up in
So at
in
the
Russia.
point where your application was successful, I'm imagining the kind of conversation you're having in your home with your large family and even the larger community. What did that conversation look like? Like, did you know at that point that okay, this is gonna be a life-changing event for me and for my family? Did you know at that point that you were going to from Russia find yourself in the United States? Was that anything you considered at that point?
No, finding myself in the United States is something I never thought of.
Mm.
And even when I was applying for a scholarship in Canada, I never intended to stay in Canada. So I'm the kind of patriotic village boy. I love my village. There's no place where I've ever been as happy as I was in my village. Every time I travel back to Cameroon, I don't stay in the big cities. I go back to my village because that's where I belong. That's where I feel the land, right? I feel that I belong. Without any of that, without money, without cars, without, I take the bike and I feel home. I just feel happy.
I see all the bike relics you have in your apartment. by the
Yeah,
way.
yeah, man. So like I said before, when we were in Russia, we were talking about making Africa great. Not what we have in the news today, but bringing some change, making sure that the governments in Africa think first about Africa, about the population, about making the place better, not thinking about themselves and having people dream of going somewhere else where it's better. While we were in Russia, our fight was to make sure that we get back to Africa when we finish so we can make our own countries better. And then you ask yourself, then why are you here, right? Why am I here? When all of that ended, I applied for a teaching position in Cameroon. I was going back home. I wanted to go home. I actually got the position. God knows how, because there were so many things that were happening around the time, so many interventions of people trying to place their own people and so on. But I ended up having the position. I was informed. It was in the newspapers
Oh wow.
that I was hired at the University of Yaoundé. And I went there just to be informed by the head of department that I was already replaced by him.
Like he chose someone else,
Yes,
even though you were announced as having gotten the position.
yes. I already got the position. It was announced in the news, in the newspapers, in the government newspaper.
Wow.
The copy still exists. And I went and he informed me that he had replaced me. And in the meantime, he told me, oh, there are many universities in the country. So I believe any university would be happy to hire you. And in my head, it's like, okay, if any university would be happy to hire me, why have you replaced me?
Yeah, why aren't you happy to hire me as well?
And then when I informed my friends about that, one of them told me, man, you didn't understand the language. I asked what? He said, probably the man expected you to bribe him. So I said, what? So I traveled out of my country, study for 10 good years, choose to come back to my country to bribe someone to get a position. How is that? He said, man, you don't know that's how it works now. So if you really want that position, you better talk to the man.
Wow. So I'm assuming this was 2008.
Yep, that was 2008. And so I launched an application to have another PhD because I was finishing a PhD in Russia. So I applied to the University of Cincinnati to do another PhD. So, and I got admitted to a program where I had another PhD in probability and statistics.
Wow.
After which I just decided to apply for a job in US instead of having the story repeat itself again. So,
So in between all of this, I'm seeing a parallel of, and you did mention this earlier about being a schoolboy, very focused on educational pursuit and being serious in all that you needed to become what you intend to. Were there any period or any time in between all of this that you thought about? I understand, getting these degrees are important, but I'm an African man. Family is important as well. Like,
yeah.
whether when did that thought cross your mind about how is this man from a village in Cameroon gonna balance this pursuit with raising or having a family?
That's a question that actually never left my mind, and when I was traveling out of Cameroon, I wanted to engage a woman before traveling out. It didn't work out well, and
Was that when you were first living in '98, or were you leaving the second time?
when I was first living in '98. I think I was about 20 years old, and the thing is, I always dreamed of being a father when I'm young, because I believe that while raising a child, it is important that the child sees the father go through the life struggles before becoming something, so it helps the child
That's
focus
true.
himself. So that was my philosophy. I wanted to get married right there as I was traveling out of the country, and because of one of few things, it didn't work out. The girl was not ready for that in the sense that I was intending it. So I was actually very, what's the right word for this? I was down psychologically when I was traveling out of the country because I didn't travel the way I wanted. You know, it took me a few years to forget about that and try to put things together with somebody else. even that didn't work out well as well, because when I traveled from Russia to the US, I went back to Africa to marry a woman that I brought to this country, and it didn't work out well as well with her. So I later had to look at it for another option. So now I'm a father of five, with one child with the woman that I travel back to Africa to marry, and four with the current.
Wow.
Right. And trying to raise those children in these circumstances, with one being away with his
Right.
mother in another state, and four being here with me in this state, and still be the African father that I want to be to them.
Speaking of being an African father, what did that mean to you as a 20-year-old leaving Cameroon to Russia? What did you
Being
understand as being an
what
African
I
father?
understood in that was being a leader for a family, being someone that provides for a family, being someone that puts his children on the right path of life, not making choices for them, but giving them all the options and all the tools that are necessary to succeed for whatever they choose to become. And I think, despite being poor and not not having worked for the government, what my father had succeeded in doing was to make sure each of his children understood that the job of a man is not only to have children or have a wife, but to make sure that the household that he has stays together, that the children in there are raised in such a way that they understand that it is one block. It is that block that needs to evolve, not one person alone, right? Everybody inside there needs to grow together. And that's what I understood back then. And it is still what I'm trying to make sure that stays with me, my brothers and sisters, and my children up to now. I have a son that is in Ohio, and I have three others here, and a daughter. And even at school, you will hear these talk about their brother Nathan that is in Ohio. Okay, because they know they have a brother there. They know that they do things with him. I travel with them from Mississippi to Ohio to have time with that boy. And I have a house there that I bought to make sure that when I get him along with his other brothers, he's at home. He knows that he is at home. This is my daddy's house. Okay? And daddy does this, daddy does that. Okay? So I try to keep that together. And sometimes I will bring him down here and make sure he sees what's going on around. He knows what his dad is doing. And we discuss what he wants to be, and so on and so forth. So that's
I like that you said trying, because yes, you're trying to reproduce that understanding of being an African dad. Because one very important thing about migration is that it doesn't let you continue the way you intend.
of course.
There's several curveballs that get thrown your way, and you have to adapt and you have to adjust. And that's where I think the trying word is very instrumental.
That's why I use the word trying. I can't say I'm doing it, because in this country, or unfortunately, or I don't know how they place it, they have managed to strip men of some of their responsibilities by trying to implement some of their rules across the board, forgetting about the cultural issues that some people. And I do understand that they say in Africa, when you get into somebody's boat, you sing his songs, right? But there are things that when we don't take into account in this America regarding family, we, for instance, culture, we create a lot of harm. And often they will tell you, they do face it, there's even in their educational system that you see people talking like, oh, okay, are your parents immigrants? Yes. To justify the fact that you are failing in X or Y at school, they will blame that on the fact that your parents are immigrants. So come on, all my children were born in this country. Why should they have an issue because their
You are
father
not,
is an
yeah.
immigrant? They were born in America. They never went to school anywhere else. So if they have an issue, it's because they are in America. It's not because their parents are immigrants. Probably there is something in America that is being done that is not appropriate for their family, that is harming instead their family. There is this issue that you take a boy and you hand to a woman to raise when his father is willing to raise him. He's not saying he doesn't want to. The woman decides to move away from the man and decides to go away with the children. And somehow, because of the law of this country or some other beliefs of judges, automatically they assign children to a woman, and including those boys. And there is an issue with that. And I believe they can conduct their own studies to see what's the difference between raising a boy and raising a girl.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are studies already conducted about the impact on the development of children,
Yeah.
boys and girls,
Yeah.
in households where the father is not present. Because though the mother has that nurturing force about her, the father has a stabilizing force about him that
Yeah.
children need.
Yeah.
Pursue.
A balance is needed. So even when they do such things, I believe there should be safeguards, right, to make sure that that man still plays that
Right.
role in the life of those children, which often isn't the case, and they would rather have you run in courtrooms because maybe the mother is not allowing you to do what you should be doing with the child. And even when you get into that courtroom, they would want you to be proving and do this, do
Right,
that, instead
right.
of actually making sure that, and
Yeah.
their social services also are not there for education. If I recall, for instance, for my son that is in the other state, when I called the social services to talk to the mother about what should be done with the child, the answers they give me is, as long as you're paying child support, we are fine. So they don't care about the education of that child, though they have taken him away from you in their system. If something is failing from the mother's side, you can't do anything until the child grows up and becomes a failure. And at that point, you are accused that it's because you are a foreigner that the child has failed. But it's just the system that is
Right,
created.
right.
And so that's why I believe that for us foreigners that get into this country, we need to make sure that we avoid getting into these situations. We try to be as much as possible connected to our children that are not living in the house with us. And for those who are living in the house with us, keep trying.
Yeah.
We keep
I mean,
trying to make sure.
yeah,
And I still keep the word keep trying
yeah. I
because
mean, I think it's a foundational principle
yeah.
to many things that concern being an immigrant in a space, especially the United States, at least in my experience, I would say. I mean, other immigrants or other places might have a varying perspective, but there's a huge element of just trying. You know, nothing is guaranteed. Just keep trying. But this kind of brings me to another point of this conversation, which is um, given the experience you've had and given the kinds of efforts that you're putting in place to ensure that your kids have the best version of fatherhood from you. I'm wondering what are some things that what are some mindset that you had before you had your first child that you were confident you have moved away from right now? Like what are some paint a picture for us, like a day in the house where something happened that you think, oh my God, Marshall 20 years ago, this would never happen. Not necessarily bad stuff, but even the funny stuff, the things that you can now just overlook, that you typically don't overlook. Like, what are some of those instances?
Well, until you actually have a child and live in the house with that child, you don't understand how much it costs to live with a child. You can buy a TV set today and not have it tomorrow.
Sure.
Okay. and you're gonna learn how to accept it and actually call that child, sit with him, and just talk to him and make sure that he doesn't cry too much for breaking the TV. you know, you try to get him to not cry too much for breaking the TV because he is feeling bad, and you find yourself sometimes justifying to your wife or your partner that in such circumstances the child is already enough in trauma and needs help, because definitely the child understands that breaking the TV is bad. It's not like he was jumping around saying, let me break this TV now and see what will happen. No, he didn't know he was going to do that. He broke it. And he's already in pain for doing that. He's already knowing that he's not going to watch his show. Right? And now, what you going to do? Shout at him? Flog him for that? Add pain to his pain? No. And so you're laughing, but that's actually a very serious situation that I found myself in that situation already several times. I have to explain that, hey, this child is already traumatized. Give him a break. Okay?
So what I'm hearing now is, what is often termed like gentle parenting,
Right.
which I know it's a nuanced concept that has different layers. So was this because I know, at least for myself, we broke a decent amount of TV.
And you get flogged for that.
In my household. Yes, we did. We did get flogged for it. Because I have 4 boys in my family. So you can imagine how much damage we did.
Yeah.
And I mean, we broke quite a number of things, to the point of one of us broke a car's windshield.
Yeah.
I personally, maybe or not, destroyed a
windows.
TV. A windows got broken. I was notorious for things that are working perfectly. I will dismantle them. Just curious about how
Just
they
to
work.
see why it is working.
Yeah,
Right?
and
We
then
did
not
that.
be able to put it back together.
I did that too.
And I get a decent amount of flogging. So I'm thinking, even at that point when we knew as kids that we messed up, and we felt bad and remorseful about what we did, we still get flogged.
I know.
So
and
was there a point where you shifted from that kind of experience to, this is not going to happen to my kid, or I'm not going to let this happen to my kid, and why?
that is the part of my father's parenting that I have canceled out, even before becoming a father, because I never really liked seeing a child being abused. I call it abused because I always believed that no child just gets up and say, "Let me go break this TV and see what will happen." I believe that, and from my own experience, my entire life, my father touched me once, and knowing myself, I never forgave him for that. Okay, so all my life, I had issues with him because of that one time that he touched me. And I was in primary school when that happened. Okay, man, imagine that. And so all my life he touched me once because I
Such as
refused.
in flogging.
Yeah,
Okay.
because I refused to do something, and he was informed, and he was misinformed of what happened, and so he flogged me, and he flogged my elder brother, and they asked me to do that thing that he asked to do before I eat. I told him, fine, you can do what you want with your food. I'm not gonna eat. So they kept me without giving me food to eat in the house for almost a week and then a day, something like that. And I decided to not come back home from school until they had already eaten. So when I go to school in the morning, I make sure I come back after school, after dinner, so that everybody was already done eating. And I go back, I just go straight to my bed. I don't talk to anybody. In the morning, I get up early in the morning, I get my bag, and I'm gone. And they were expecting me to come and do exactly what they asked me to do. I said I was not going to do that because it was unfair. That decision was unfair. He shouldn't have flogged me. He should have listened to me. So after that, after living that experiment, living through that experiment, I I don't just touch my kids anyhow because I believe that if they are my children, they might as well do what I did. Okay, and it took a long time before getting that image of my dad flogging me out of my head. Even though everything happened later, that we were close, we were doing things, but you know, like you say, you forgive, but you don't forget, right? It was still there. The proof is I'm still talking to you about it now, right? I'll never forget about it. He flogged me. He did. It wasn't fair. Right? So and that's why when I decide to talk to my kids when things happen, it's not about being soft, but because I try when I do discipline them, I make sure I explain to them that, hey, you knew this right was coming, right? I told you about this. I warned you. I told you to stop this. You kept doing it. So you disobeyed me. You knew that you were getting into the last resort, which would be to stop you by having you discipline. Okay? So the child understands that, hey, yeah, there was no alternative. I really forced to get there, right?
So in cases like that, even if it ends up being, you know, I mean, I'm assuming it's not a physical kind of discipline. So even if the child ends up being hurt in some way, they understand that there was a communication around
Yeah, that
what
yeah.
eventually happened. So what are some of the disciplinary measures that you take in your household with your kids?
It should be well understood by the child that you're not being rude. You you're not using your power, right? Because you are a grown up to bully the child, right? So make sure that, hey, okay, when you're being disciplined, it's because X, Y, Z. You shouldn't repeat this. This is not okay. This is why this is happening. And you're not getting onto this iPad for 2 days, for example. You're staying in that corner, okay? And if it really gets off the rails, and even after staying in that corner, you ain't getting it to get that, and I'm gonna flog you, okay? So, and when I say I'm gonna flog you, doesn't mean I gotta beat a child and being in the house as if you know it. That's not something that should happen. We should, okay, man.
Well,
Yeah.
so
Good.
with that being in place, having a tiered level of possible repercussions for actions, as you've shaped the way you've noticed your kids react when
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
tell them, "Hey, stop doing that," or "Hey, don't do that," or
There's a very big difference in my house, for example, when I talk to my children and when their mother talks to them.
Mm,
When I say don't do this, they know I said don't do this. Okay? When their mother says don't do this, it's like a game. Yes, so when they are jumping around and shouting and doing this and throwing around things inside the house, and I say stop that, they understand that I said stop that.
mm,
So, and again, it's not like because I don't discipline them, because I do discipline them, but it's because of me not acting as a bully towards, when I'm disciplining them, when I'm instructing them to do things, and I say, do this, please do this for me, please do that for me, don't do this, don't do that, and so on. I don't continuously talk to a child in a situation when I already said, don't do that. Don't do this. That's it. Don't say, don't do this. You're doing this because of that and that. And then having a long conversation where you're narrating, saying things that the child is not even listening to, it's not even understanding. That cancels the instruction that you just gave the child. Because all the child is seeing is that rambling that you're adding to it. Okay? Give one instruction, stop on that. That's how you interact with the child. Give the instruction. Is it respected? Okay, if it's not respected, get the warning. Man, you didn't get that. Don't get into, you're getting warned because of, no. You said, don't throw a ball inside the house. We don't do that. Full stop. When the child does, said, we have a rule. Don't throw the ball in the house. Sorry, daddy. That's it. But if you come and you say, what have I said? Don't we have rules in the house? Don't you know what should be done in this house?
Too much words.
You're not giving an instruction. You're not enforcing a rule. You're talking. You're making a child.
Commentary.
You're making the child a person that quarrels with you, right? You're waiting for the child to say something back. No, it's not an instruction. It's not a consequence. When you do that, then yeah, the child becomes your chat buddy, and
So is there a time where, because I know it's not the same for a 3-year-old and a 17-year-old, for instance, right? Is there a time where you have to modify that strategy to fit the appropriateness of, to be appropriate for the age of the child?
It grows up. It grows up and changes with the child when as he's growing up. I mean, the same things that you're asking 2 or 3 years old not to do is not what you're being asking
Right.
a 12 or 15 years old boy to not do, right? But again, as it goes up, you just need to make sure that you have some tools that you can push on to have him slow down. You know, if you don't have
The
them,
slow down button.
yeah, if you don't have them, then you're gonna lose him. That's the thing, and I believe that for children with already at 12, 13, going up, if you didn't have a proper setup before when they were younger, you'll be lost. You can't correct it because the temper of the child and the behavior of the child starts from when he is like a few months old. You start building it. Whatever you're letting him do, he will keep doing it when he grow up. He will not grow up and start saying, "Hey, yeah, I'm figuring out now by myself that this thing my dad has been letting me do is bad." No, you already set that as a good way to do things for him, and he's going to do it. You will not wake up and say, "Don't do it now."
You know what that's what reminds me of is in Islam there's a concept of 777. In the first 7 years of a child's life, you're expected to show them all the love that you can, right? Because what they understand at that point is not instruction. It's not harshness, right? What they understand at that point, because they're still trying to
How it is
develop
being doing,
connection to you, is
How
love
you relate
and
to them.
nurture and all. And then the next 7 years, you instruct them. You know, you tell them, "Hey, do this. Hey, do that," and you teach them. And the next 7 years, you be their friend. And that way, you're able to solidify, to your point, the connection,
because
so you don't push them away.
in that
you know?
last 7 is either becoming a grown-up man or woman. If it's a boy, then he's looking for a girlfriend,
Right.
and you should be the man to actually direct him into that world. If you didn't set up the stage, if you showed yourself as being the bully, the person that he will run away from
That's
you,
true. That's
and
true.
he will get advice from his peers, friends, and other people that he
Bad
sees outside
advice.
because he cannot talk to you, right? And the consequence of what the bullying that some of our parents had was that the child ends up looking at the father, though it looks at the father as a role model. He don't look at the father as somebody to go to for advice. Okay, you run away. You take your issues away because you know that when he learns about this, the first thing will be to yell at you.
There goes the angry man.
Yeah.
That'll be terrible. Yeah.
He'll be yelling at you. You know, thinking like, I like this girl like this. You're like,
How dare you?
How dare you? Focus on your studies. You need to do this.
Yeah.
If that's how you've been reacting to things, he will not come to you.
So just to kind of wrap this whole thing up, I want you to kind of like go into some of the memories that you have. What are some of your fondest memory of being an immigrant dad? Either in Russia, if that happened, or in the United States, or back in Cameroon. What are some fun memories you've had as a dad, but also as an immigrant?
Oh well, the fun memories I could just tell you that being able to play with my children, spend my time with them, having what we call the movie nights, going to events at their schools when they organize and they're giving certificates to children. This is the diploma for being this, for being that. We were not used to things like that back in Africa, but it's not about excellence, right? But about the civics, about the behavior of the child. Just giving a certificate to a child for being the helper in the classroom, for being listener, for being this, for being that.
Wow, that's so profound. Yeah, it's a good
I-
way to think about it.
I
too.
believe it helps the child. I believe so. Commend the child for something that is doing that is not academic, but that is good in the society. They do that in this country, and I'm really very happy that it's being done. And I can see how that has an effect on my children.
Mm.
When he's so happy, Daddy, are you coming to my school today? We'll be having, and you come and he gets that and he's celebrating, and it makes sure that next time he will keep doing that same thing, replicating that good behavior.
Mm.
And
To the point of what you said, my wife's youngest sisters,
mm,
she has four younger ones, and two of them are in I think elementary school. One is just getting into middle school now, and they will get this. My Nigerian mind is what award did you say that is again? It's like award for just like you said, like being the
Helper.
kindest person in
Yeah.
class or
Being the
helping around in class. And
light of the library.
yeah, all of that, and even to the point of getting an award at the elementary level, it's like if I think of it from the Nigerian perspective of where we do not care, well, that's a generous statement. Where it's at least
It's
when
more
I
about
grew up,
excellence.
it's not. Yeah, it's. And so what? Like, what is the big deal about what you got? If it's not big, it's nothing, right? I see people here graduate high school, and they have all this elaborate prom
Yeah.
that costs tens of thousands of dollars. Like, did you get a PhD? What are you celebrating? But it's a good way to rethink that.
Here they
as to,
start
you know,
that even in pre-K.
right. As to,
Before starting primary school.
right,
Okay.
like the very basic milestones are also worth celebrating, and not just a big, accomplishment and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good way to view it, and also to cap this very lovely conversation that we've had. I'm very, very grateful that you've come
Yeah, it's
around and
not that we are
stuck around
trying.
with us.
It's not like we're trying to say that everything that is being here in this country is bad. It's just,
Definitely.
I just wanted to point to what is not right that could be done in other ways. And there's, of course, a lot of good things here in this country that the families benefit from, and that the children would turn out better off because they have those things. If we couple with that our own culture, then definitely we're gonna have better citizens.
Thank you so
both
much
for this country and for Africa.
Thank you. So I wish I want us to have like a part 2 of this sometime later in the fall. Hopefully, I will be in touch with you, and we will see how we can make that happen. Perhaps we can focus on another aspect of it, because much of what we've talked about I like it because it's kind of opened the doors to what this podcast project is going to be like, and I cannot thank you enough for sharing your time with us. Thank you so much.
That's okay, though.
Appreciate
Thank you.
it.
So it was a nice thing, and somewhere in the conversation, I was thinking maybe I should bring it more towards what the
No,
the
it was
origin
perfect.
but then I felt
it
like
was perfect the way
it's good for the narrative that you had about why people immigrate. Is it like people just wanting to come and stay in this country or not? That's in this
because
case, it wasn't about
if we
coming
don't
and
get
staying
this
here.
complex and dynamic perspectives of versions, it becomes that narrow version of things are not working in the country, and then they want to come to our country and they're taking over everything, when in fact it's not true. There's a lot of complexity and nuances to it, which I'm glad you've helped us establish with tracing what it was from the village and down here. What's the village called again?
Babaju.
Babajur. Is that what language
it's
is that?
It's a village in Cameroon, in the west region of Cameroon.
Okay, what language,
the language is Ngombale.
Ngombale.
Ngombale, that's the traditional language we have there, but in the country we have official languages, French and English.
Yeah, they taught us.
And my village happens to be the border village between the two places. On the left you have French, and the right you have English. So
so you have to speak both.
Some part of my family is in the English-speaking part of the country, and the other part is.
They don't speak French today.
Yeah,
they don't.
No, they were raised and born and raised in the English-speaking part of the country.
Oh.
Yeah.
So
they struggle when they speak French,
right.
and we struggle when we speak English, because we were born
in
the French-speaking part of the country.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, and
it's interesting. It must. So.
And even here, as an immigrant, as people say, I'm not a U.S. citizen, and
Mm.
and I'm not trying to be a U.S.
Right.
citizen. I wish and hope I will remain a citizen of Cameroon until I die, because that's where I was born. That's where I belong. That's what I believe my life is. I'm
Yeah.
here. I work here, and I pray that the time comes when I can return to my country and do whatever I can do there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was gonna say, so Reggie and Leo, are they also from the English speaking part,
No, no.
or they also speak French?
Regine, Moose, and Lionel are all from the French-speaking part of the country, but they are from different regions.
Okay.
Lionel is from the West region, my region. He's actually my nephew.
Yeah, I see you guys look like.
Yeah, he's my elder brother's son. He passed away a few years ago.
Sorry.
And Regine is from the littoral province, and Moose is from the North province. So it's really diverse people, different languages.
That's why most looks like Hausa.
He is. He
Oh,
is.
okay.
He is Hausa.
That makes sense. So he's the one closer to the northern part of Nigeria, border-wise.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
So
that makes sense.
I tried to have students from various parts of the country to also avoid the issues that we have in our country, which is tribalism. Right? But we say how this guy is in America, but he's only training people from his own tribe, you know. But
well, appreciate it. I think we're done here.
All right.
Thank you so much.
All right, man. Thanks. How long did this take today?
1 hour 36 minutes. Let's say 1 hour 36